Hey, everybody. In the early 2000s, my grandfather, who had a cognitive impairment, was the victim of a scam, financial scam, when a woman befriended him, um, eventually became his girlfriend, stole his checks, and then started writing those checks until there was no money left. So today we're going to talk about that. There are various scams out there that our loved ones with dementia are especially prone to. So there are some things that we can do. We just need to know what scams are out there, and then there are and what strategies there are to prevent them completely or to limit them. This video will draw upon the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau guidance on elder financial exploitation, the National Council on Aging, Scam Prevention Resources, and the FBI Internet Crime Complaint Center annual reports documenting fraud trends. The research on cognitive vulnerability comes from the Alzheimer's Association 2025 Dementia Care Practice Recommendations and studies by Lichtenberg and colleagues on impaired financial decision making in dementia. Additional insights come from the AARP Fraud Watch Network and the Federal Trade Commission. My name is Matt Estrad. I'm a gerontologist in St. Tammany Parish, and I've been partnering with the Council on Aging in St. Tammany for over 11 years, mainly as the Caregiver Support Group Facilitator, and about half of that time in bringing you online education like this called Caregiver Coffee Conversations. So let's jump into this. Before that, just a very brief spiel. I won't go as long as I usually do. So I mentioned I'm the facilitator for the Caregiver Support Group, and we meet every Tuesday evening, unless it's Mardi Gras or Christmas or another holiday, in which case we end up usually shifting that time. We meet from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Highly encourage you to come check us out. There's no reservations that's needed. If you come, there's no commitment to keep coming. You can find out more information by going to coastseniors.org, navigating to the caregiver information, and there you'll see a flyer that has 2 months worth of dates. It's got a way to, and there you'll see addresses, you'll see dates and where we are. You'll see when we're online and when we're in person. You'll see how to sign up if you choose to a private free email list that will get you reminders every Tuesday morning, and it will get you a new flyer every 2 months when we come out with new dates. All right, with that, let us really jump into the topic. So why are persons living with dementia especially targeted for scams? Well, as you might expect, dementia impacts judgment, risk assessment, and the ability to detect deception. Scammers also intentionally target older adults who appear lonely, confused, or isolated, and memory gaps can make it harder to recall previous warnings. Persons living with dementia often want to be helpful, and scammers love to exploit this kindness. And shame prevents families from reporting losses, unfortunately. So this isn't carelessness, it's a cognitive vulnerability, and it's up to us to help protect our loved ones and their assets as much as we can, and balancing their independence and their freedom to spend their own money as they would like to. So we're going to talk about the most common scams that target older adults. The first category are imposter scams. There's something called the grandparent scam, where the phone call to the grandparent is impersonating a grandchild, and they're in trouble. They're in the hospital, or they were in an accident, or their car broke down, is in the shop, but they're basically in financial need, and they're calling grandma or grandpa in an urgent sense to get money from them. And many times this is a gift card or wiring of money. It could also be someone impersonating the Social Security office or the IRS. It could be someone impersonating the utility company, so water, electric, gas, etc., and threatening to shut off if they don't pay their bill. Like maybe we haven't received your checks when they have really sent them in, and they're calling and saying you need to send money right now because we did not receive your checks. And then there could also be a bank impersonator saying that your account has been compromised, and we need we need certain types of information or even payment to go ahead and fix it. Then there are tech and device scams. There's fake Microsoft and Apple support. There are pop-up warnings that someone could click on and then be taken to a bad website that's going to extract money and information. There are remote access scams. And then your computer has a virus scam where you actually have to pay to get data back, or at least that's what they're saying, and that's how they threaten. There are romance and friendship scams. That's the next category. Online relationships, new friends who appear suddenly and requests for money for emergencies. There are charity and donation scams. So just straight up fake charities, and a pressure to donate immediately. And they really play on the emotions and manipulate people that way, especially if they have some kind of clue as to what is important to an older adult, whether it's maybe it is pets, homeless pets, maybe it's veterans, maybe it's related to the church and other charities. So you name it, it's not that hard sometimes to find out what are some causes that are important to a person to kind of tug at those heartstrings. There are also home repair and contractor scams where they go door to door and they say, hey, look, we're working in your neighborhood and we noticed this on your roof. And, in my experience, if you don't get this sort of thing taken care of, it can get worse within a week. But I'm here, we got the supplies, we got the guys, and we can do the work. It could also be where, and they take the money, but they don't do the work. And then there's the overcharging or just not coming back the next day to finish the work. So these are all things that can happen. Now I know on the contractor note, so it's not uncommon. I've experienced where a contractor was working next door down the street and they came and they talked to me and they seemed to be genuine. We didn't take them up on the offer, but it's not unreasonable to think that somebody's looking for business while they're there. But you do need to really scrutinize and figure out if it's legitimate. So what are some early warning signs that you can look for as a family member and caregiver? So there are different categories again. So one category is behavioral signs that you can look for: increased phone calls, sort of secretive behavior, sudden urgency or fear, talking about new friends who you've never heard of before. So they're just kind of like start talking about using names of friends and that you're not familiar with. They're not their usual friends or older friends. Confusion about bills or accounts. Next, we look into you should look for financial signs such as unusual withdrawals, if you're even privy to this information. Some you will not. Multiple small charges, duplicate purchases, new credit cards, and missing cash. Now that's if you have already. It would seem to me that you will notice those things if you're a joint account owner, and you start to see these things as well. If you're not, then it might be more difficult to detect any of these things. You can look for emotional signs such as anxiety and shame, irritability, and defensiveness. So defending what they're doing or their new friend, or things like that, because it can be embarrassing. They can feel the shame, even knowing that they got taken, but not wanting to admit to it, in fear that their independence will be taken away, their financial control will be taken out of the way. So it's a very, very sensitive topic, as you can imagine. Put yourself in your loved one's shoes, and you want access, of course, to be able to spend your money how you want to. So this can be very, very troubling, anxiety-filled conversation and situation. So what are some practical protections that you can put in place? Now, some of these are self-explanatory, but some that are not, we don't have time to really go into detail, but maybe in a future video. But even if not, at least you have some leads here. So one is call blocking, so blocking certain numbers or blocking numbers that are not in a person's contact list. And of course, we want and need their cooperation in doing these things. So this is, like, I would say, a conversation before there's a cognitive impairment. Like, what if this would happen? what do I have your permission to do, even if you don't understand at the time. So, like I said, very complex. Back to the communication controls. You can silence unknown callers where you don't even really see that someone's calling if they're unknown, rather than blocking them. Remove landline voicemail. You can limit access to social media, which can be, that can have its downside to accessing social media. And you can have a family code word for emergencies. So the grandchild, if the grandchild is really in trouble, can give a code word to the grandparent if it's really them. That's not perfect because the grandparent, if they have a cognitive impairment, they would have to remember that. So it's a good idea. Just have to see how that would work. For digital safety, and it's recommended to install ad blockers, disable pop-ups, use antivirus software, turn off remote access to a computer, set up password managers. You can also get have certain things in place so people can't access your Wi-Fi and break in that way. There are environmental controls like moving the phone away from the TV, and this could reduce impulse answering of the phone. You could post a sign near the phone saying, if someone asks for money, hang up. And then, of course, you'll have some education and some training associated with that. Education for family and neighbors. So alert neighbors to watch for suspicious visitors. Ask the family to avoid confusing financial conversations, and create a no surprise request rule. So if there is some kind of emergency, there's going to have to be some other conversation about that, like a waiting period or in person, or something where it's not, someone's not able to call and pressure someone into sending money. And it's not about control. It's about protection that is care. All right, briefly, some financial backstops for financial prevention. Alerts and notifications, so bank alerts for withdrawals on the phone, credit card transaction notifications, daily balance updates, spending limits, withdrawals from the ATM, having some smaller caps there. I know there are limits for everybody, but see if you can get lower limits. Debit card purchase limits, prepaid cards for small purchases. So just like having one that's reloadable and having that. And then, of course, that limits the amount that you can be scammed or overspend. You could consider changing the account structure. So having a joint account with oversight. You could have view access for caregivers. You can have a trusted contact designation. And you can even have fraud flagging notes on accounts. So in my bank accounts, certain purchases, certain merchants sometimes, or amounts, I notice can trigger like an alert, like a text message actually for one of my accounts where this came through, or this person is trying to charge, or this company is trying to charge. Do you authorize this? And it could be just something random, or it could be certain companies. So that's so the best thing to do is to have that banking partnership. So with your credit union or your bank, get to know the people there, know about fraud, what kind of elder fraud teams members that they have there. So discussing them, like even before something happens, find out what do y'all have as far as these backstops, what happens to trigger an investigation should something happen, and what have you learned from other families and their experience with fraud. You can probably learn a lot from their wisdom. So these backstops can protect the future without erasing independence. So your bank, when do you want to get the authorities involved? So there's the bank fraud department, there's adult protective services, there's the local police, and there's also other reporting organizations that we'll go over. So the bank fraud department at your local bank, it should be your first call because they can freeze accounts, they can reverse some charges, maybe they can reverse all of them, but you want to get to them first so you can stop the hemorrhaging of money if that is happening, and halt future losses. Next is adult protective services if you feel there's ongoing exploitation, and for predatory caregivers or acquaintances, because it's not always strangers that can befriend somebody. Like with my grandfather, it can be caregivers, family members, friends, acquaintances that could take advantage. Some of them just being malicious, and others thinking that they are owed money for things that they are doing as a family member or a friend. There's a local police for active scams and for in-person fraud, and certainly for threats and coercion. It was the police department, it was the NOPD that my mom got involved with the checks that were stolen from my grandfather, and probably and I'm not sure because I was younger, but probably some other organizations. So reporting can help others. So by getting in touch with ic3.gov, and as well as the ftc.gov, AARP Fraud Watch Network. When you report this goes towards their statistics and can help with more research and trends and seeing kind of like what is happening overall. So scams are common, they're targeted, and they are preventable. Like many things, you can protect your loved ones without taking away their dignity by some of the things we talked about here. And small steps can make a big difference. So I encourage you to be proactive, to get to know the bank that your loved one goes to. Maybe it's the same or it could be different than where you go, but just see what they have in place, learn from their experience and what backstops they have, so you can hopefully go through this experience of caregiving without any kind of incident involving finances. So now that we've covered scams and external threats, we're going to have a part 2 to this that will focus on something even more sensitive, and that's how to prevent money misuse when someone's judgment declines. Because, like I mentioned before, it is their money, but we also have, I believe, a duty to help protect them from actions that are only happening because there's a cognitive decline. So how do we do that? We'll discuss some ideas in the next one. If you found this one helpful, please share it with others. And certainly, please, I encourage you to take to heart the things that were discussed in here and to take action on one or two things right away. And then you can move on to other ones that you think would be impactful. So thanks again. Thanks for supporting the Council on Aging in St. Tammany. And I look forward to you joining us for future conversations. Take care.